Hello. For about 3 months now, I have been obsessed with gourds, and more specifically, gourd bottles in 18th century France, just like this gourd bottle that I made myself. Before you ask, this is not historically accurate, and I know that. It's a medical device. I am not being anachronistic of my own free will, I just happen to have a very hot and sexy sleep disorder, so too bad! So today, we're going to learn about some extant gourd bottles with fascinating histories, and we'll delve into some 18th century paintings that depict gourd bottles in different contexts. Along the way, I'll also show snippets from my process of creating my own gourd bottle. First, a note on terminology. In modern French, the term gourd refers to any bottle made from any material, in addition to gourds themselves. Shout out to Margaret Mora for confirming this. However, according to period definitions, it appears that the term gourd referred only to the finished bottles, while the raw gourds from the plant were called courges. So for clarity's sake, I'll try to highlight this distinction in translation by saying gourd versus gourd bottle. As usual, let's begin our gourd exploration by consulting the Dictionnaire de l'Académie Française. Turning to the word gourd, we are given gourd, calabash, a dry and emptied gourd, which soldiers, pilgrims, etc. used to carry water or wine, along with the example sentence, a gourd full of wine. When we inquire further into the term calebasse, we find calabash, a type of bottle made from a dry and emptied gourd. There was not one soldier who didn't have his calabash full of wine. Based on these entries, the terms gourd and calabash seem interchangeable. We can see from these definitions that the gourd bottle had strong military associations, which is corroborated by the fact that French soldiers were often not issued canteens and were left to obtain their own gourd bottles to carry water. Here are some period images that depict soldiers' reliance on gourd bottles. This piece is by the often satirical engraver Nicolas Guérard and dates to the early 18th century. The title reads, "Leaving the Winter Quarters." All the troops have winter quarters from the end of the campaign season until spring, when the order comes to fight in the battlefield. So each resourceful soldier, thinking of filling his gourd and his knapsack, makes the goodman contribute, and barely spares his hostess's hen. This detail of a painting from 1747 shows soldiers from the Royal Roussillon Regiment around the time of their campaign into Italy during the, you guessed it, War of Austrian Succession. As you can see, one of the soldiers is drinking from a gourd bottle, while a camp follower, in a very iconic yellow corset blanc, I might add, serves food to the group. This is actually one of the only paintings depicting a French regiment that later went on to serve in North America during the 7 Years' War, and if you ever find yourself in upstate New York, you can go and check it out in person at Fort Ticonderoga. Aside from the prevalence of gourd bottles among soldiers, we recall that they were also associated with traveling, and especially pilgrimages. Here is a depiction of a peasant from Limoges in the 1790s, who appears to be going on a journey, since he has a large market wallet and walking stick along with his gourd. This second image depicts a gentleman pilgrim in 1730s France, but the real story behind the painting goes a lot deeper. Stanisław Leszczyński was king of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth from 1704 to 1709, supported by Charles XII of Sweden. But then, Sweden lost the Battle of Poltava. So Stanisław Leszczyński lost all his support, and he had to run away to France, where his daughter would marry Louis XV in 1725, though he would famously cheat on her. It was also during this exile in France that Stanisław had this wonderful pilgrim portrait done, featuring the iconic gourd. He eventually was elected King of Poland again in 1734 with the support of Louis XV, but a year later Russia laid siege of Gdańsk, so Stanisław had to go to France again, where he got a bunch of stuff named after him, and he had an intellectual feud with Rousseau, and died at the age of 88 with his clothes catching on fire when he was taking a nap. But still, longest living Polish monarch of all time. Finally, I want to show you some extant gourds. These bottles probably only survive due to the ornate engraved decoration and the unusual circumstances surrounding their creation, so these are definitely more novelty gourds than everyday gourds, but they're just so cool that I have to show you. This one is known as Maupeltu's gourd, and it's actually made from a canteen gourd instead of a bottle gourd, but it's also a drinking vessel, so I've included it. In 1605, a French settlement called the Habitation de Port-Royal was established in Nova Scotia, with help from the Micmac Grand Chief Maupeltu, called Maupeltu in French. The French were called to leave the Habitation from 1607 until 1610, when they returned and found that the Micmac had taken care of their buildings while they were gone. Maupeltu, around 103 years old at this time, requested for himself and his family to be baptized by the Abbé Fléchet, a French priest who came along with the expedition, and his baptism took place on June 24, 1610. After the ceremony, he gave a plain canteen gourd to his godfather Charles Robin, the Vicomte de Coulnes. The Vicomte brought the gift to France, where it was engraved with his family crest, Latin mottos, and items of Micmac material culture, including tools and a drum. The last gourd story I have for you involves this fascinating carved bottle gourd. It dates to 1793, the year that Louis XVI was executed in the French Revolution. The engraving on the bottom of the gourd claims that a man named Maximilien Bourdaloue, quote, soaked his handkerchief in the blood of Louis XVI after his beheading, and subsequently commissioned this commemorative gourd from an artist called Jean Roux to keep it in. Over the past 2 centuries, the handkerchief itself has dissolved within the gourd, so you might be surprised to find that plenty of dried blood was found inside it when a group of scientists began conducting DNA testing on it in 2009. In 2014, the Spanish paleogenetic specialist Carles Lalueza Fox found that the blood did not match with any Bourbon descendants and was likely forged, noting that, in the 18th century, many false relics were forged for economic reasons. But I still think it's a good story and a very good gourd. These are some of my favorite gourds and gourd images which inspired me when making my own gourd bottle. I bought the gourd online for $10 and I made it into a bottle using the saw blade on my pocket knife to cut the hole, a bunch of rocks to smooth out the inside, sandpaper to smooth the opening, and beeswax to coat the inside. It has a capacity of about 1 quart, and it's very durable and easy to make. Well, it's hard on your hands, but it's cheap to make. I highly recommend making one for your impression, or even just for everyday life. Thank you for watching, and as always, remember to like and subscribe for more videos, and leave a comment if you want. Also, hello, Modern Yule here. I am reading from a script. I wrote this down, okay? I am just letting you know that we are not going to have an 18th century video next month. We are going to have the culmination of a year-long research and translation project. Have I mentioned I'm a classics major? Right, so I've been making this short film of my original translation of Lucian's Dialogue of the Courtesans 5 from ancient Greek, and it's very funny. It's short, it's approachable, there is ancient music in it, it has 2nd century CE queer representation, and I also made reproduction red figure pottery for it, so definitely watch out for that. That will be out in about a month, but no promises. But yeah, I have a degree in classics, and you should like and subscribe. Me and my gourd, just hanging out with my gourd, and 2022, it's the year of the gourd. Everyone needs a gourd. You need a gourd. Bye!